Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. In a world where digital platforms amplify every voice, where the power to communicate is at our fingertips, the responsibility that comes with this power is immense. Recently, a statement allegedly attributed to Sama Thomas, an individual purporting as an activist during a Facebook live show on Chris Anna's channel, has caused ripples of concern. According to reports from La République du Cameroon's Proxy Media, the Cameroon news agency of Info Hansen, Sama Thomas wants us to kill, that is, wants Amazonians to kill women and children for a scandalous reason. Now, the claim that women and children should be victimized to draw international attention to a cause is not just appalling, it distorts the very essence of activism and the fight for genuine justice. The backdrop of this controversy is the ongoing liberation movement in the southern Cameroon's Amazonia against what is perceived as the oppressive oversight of the French Cameroon's colonial government. This movement is deeply marred by accusations, counter accusations, and misinformations, complicating an already volatile situation. Amidst this, the corrupt Cameroon Human Rights Council (CHRC) has raised alarms, urging the Yaoundé government to prevent actions that could be seen as genocidal, highlighting the dire context of this war, making insinuations that seems to suggest that Amazonia is the problem. Well, others human rights reports like Amnesty International are actually clear on this. It is heart-wrenching to see the label of terrorism being weaponized against Amazonian freedom fighters, individuals who anchor their fight in the historical and legal rights of the cause. This mischaracterization not only undermines the legitimacy of their struggle, but also obscures the actual narratives of the pain, the sacrifices, and the resilience of those fighting genuinely. Well, the Never Again generation of Amazonia is not just a testament to their unwavering resolve, but a reminder of the deep scars and enduring spirit in the quest for autonomy. As Dr. Martin Mungwa, the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, steps forward to address these contentious issues with Undaunted tonight, it is crucial to reflect on the gravity of the situation. Behind every headline, every report, or statement, there are human lives affected by every twist and turn in this tumultuous journey towards freedom. The Amazonian liberation movement, with all its complexities, is evidence of the profound human desire for dignity, sovereignty, and the right to self determination. In moments like this, it is essential to remember the importance of responsibly wielding the power of our voices and platforms. Misinformation can not only derail meaningful causes, but also harm the most vulnerable amongst us. As the world watches and as voices like Dr. Martin Mungwa's seek to clarify, rectify, or advance the conversation, may we all strive for a discourse that uplifts truth, fosters understanding, and genuinely aims for peaceful resolutions. For in the heart of this conflict, like in all others, lie the hopes, the dreams, and the futures of real people. But we will get into the crux of the matter right after the prime headlines.
Sovereign silhouette, the emblem of Amazonia. From the azure embrace of the Atlantic reflecting from the Ambers Bay, the iconic Fako Mountain ascends with a silent, stoic grace, carving a silhouette against the sky. This towering sentinel is more than a geographical marvel. It is the heart of southern Cameroons, the stoic guardian of Amazonia, a symbol steadfast as the unyielding spirit in the unity of the land's 13th counties. Encircling this earthen spire, a dove of peace edges its out, untouched and serene. As it soars with wings unfurled, it casts shadows upon the land, each feather a brushstroke of tranquility. A canvas of the heavens, first glimmer is a
Here are the prime headlines for tonight. Yaoundé's miscommunication increases tension in Ebolowa. La République du Cameroon announces military operations in Ambazonia's restive acquire local government area to counter attacks. CHRC charges Yaoundé government to take action against genocide amid ongoing war in southern Cameroon. Government's response to criminal orders purportedly issued by colonial Proxies is an interesting topic for you today because Dr. Mungwa would definitely highlight the government's position about it. Meanwhile, another explosive at the Savannah Junction neighborhood in Bamenda. La République du Cameroon terrorist kills 4 in Kumbu, a very sad one today. Meanwhile, on the foreign scene, Zelensky says he will listen to Trump's ideas to end war in Ukraine with pleasure. Do you believe that? Well, let's get all of the briefings in full details. The Amazonian State Army has always had a clear intention of what they were created for. The young military boys who have given up a lot to protect her people, the Amazonians, understand that they are to protect and guide her people from external forces coming into Amazonia. The people of Ebola are in panic as allegations of armed presence fills the air. The controversy in Ebola highlights the challenges faced by the failed La République du Cameroon local authorities in managing public security. The confusion and differences of opinion surrounding this case highlights the need for transparent communication and responsible action by the authorities. It is crucial that the population can have confidence in the information communicated to them and that the authorities act diligently to ensure the safety of all. The fear of Amazonia is real, but for all we know, the Amazonian State Army under President Sako will never go out of its boundary seeking revenge. They know that they are to protect those in Amazonia. Well, this is where we will begin the full briefing of Undirty tonight. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, splendid on you. Good evening, Ambazonians, once again. Well, more information says that the town of Eboloa in French Cameroon is shaken by allegations of infiltration of Amazonian fighters amongst its population. The allegation is buttressed by a note from La République du Cameroon's intelligence services, relayed by Jeune Afrique, showed doubt, and sparked a rise in tension in the southern region. The revelations shed harsh light on the precarious security situation prevailing in this locality. It should be noted here that there are different factions to this struggle, but the most recognized, which is the Amazonian State Army under the Amazonian government headed by President Sacco, cannot be found outside the country of Amazonia. However, the region's governor, Felix Ngule quickly disputed these allegations, saying that the reported incidents were actually the result of a family fight and not the result of Amazonian activities. The local governor's about turn has fueled debates on the credibility of the information and the possibility of manipulation of events by external actors.
Now, in this context of uncertainty, the inhabitants of Ebelua remain divided as to the real nature of the threat weighing on their city. The continued confusion raises questions about the reliability of authorities and the transparency of their communication. It is imperative that concrete measures be taken to ensure the safety of the population and restore citizens' confidence. In this case highlights the importance of trust between the authorities and the population, as well as the need to treat any potential threat to public safety seriously. The stability and tranquility of Ebola depend on the ability of the authorities to demonstrate leadership and responsibility in managing their delicate situation.
Well, in another report, insecurity seems to continuously be on the rise in Amazonia. Well, our thanks to the terrorist military who cannot even protect the people but are seen everywhere in Amazonia. After weeks of tense silence, the Yaoundé genocide government finally takes a position on the critical situation in Akwaya local government area of Manu County. The announcement of a special military operation was made by the Colonial La République du Cameroon's Minister Delegate for Defense, Joseph Betty Asomo, at a special security meeting held on Friday, April 5th, during which the colonial minister Betty Asomo highlighted the worrying developments in the restive Akwaya local government area, stressing the need for urgent actions in the wake of repeated attacks by armed shepherds allegedly from neighboring Nigeria, which have spread terror amongst the local population, destroying homes, ravaging livelihoods, and resulting in tragic loss of life.
Well, Undaunted gathered that the decision comes after their criticisms from various sectors of the society and that the Reverend Dr. Funky Fober from Aquia and the moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroons. Now, you would remember that his home was recently burned by these armed Fulanese who publicly denounced the Yaoundé genocidal government inactions, accusing it of leaving the local population at the mercy of what they call armed shepherds. So they do not even believe in their own military. Now, the enclave Akwaya local government area, which is easily accessible from neighboring Nigeria, from than the Cameroons, in addition to being confronted with attacks by armed terrorists, has also been a hotbed since the outbreak of the senseless war in the southern Cameroons and Amazonia. This complex situation has amplified the security challenges facing the local government area.
Well, Undaunted equally learned that the CPDM member, the MP for Acquire, the Honorable AKA Martin Tioga, had previously called on the colonial annexationist government of Yaoundé to establish a military base in the local government area to better, in his words, protect the population. Well, this request reflected the urgency of the situation and the need for concrete measures to guarantee the safety of the inhabitants of Aquia. But then, will failed Yaoundé deliver? Time for Amazonia to take its destiny in its own hands. Well, still on another report of interest, amid the commemoration of the International Day of Reflection on the Genocide of the Tutsis in Rwanda in 1994. The day observed every April 7th in remembrance of the Rwanda genocide, which claimed over 1 million lives in 1994. The Republic of Cameroon's Human Rights Commission, the CHRC, has called on the corrupt genocidal government to bolster its efforts in combating blatant genocide being perpetrated in the southern Cameroon's Amazonia and other international crimes. Well, the call issued by Professor James A. Kubila, president of the CHRC, is rather ironic looking at the fact that it's calling on the genocidal regime responsible for the countless genocide cases and massacres to combat the same genocide.
Well, the CHRC's call for enhanced measures against genocide and international crimes amidst ongoing violence in the southern Cameroons, where close to 60,000 people that have died since 2016. During the armed conflicts in the Cameroons, we've heard political observers like T. Bernard, a former U.S. diplomat to Africa, describing the killing of civilians and burning of villages by the La République de Cameroon military as genocide and crimes against humanity, which is exactly what it is. While the Cameroon's Human Rights Commission, CHRC, did not explicitly attribute acts of genocide to any specific party in the southern Cameroon's Amazonian crisis, it has indirectly excused the major culprit from the wrongdoing by calling on La Republic de Cameroon to fight against the genocide when its military is responsible for the massacres on and in Amazonia.
Well, this brings to question the credibility of this CHRC because, as has been observed, every institution in La République is under the whims of its now nonagenarian president, dictating the tune. And as far as to what is posted on the media goes, he is also as well in charge of that. Oh well, until revolutionary TVs like the ABC Amber TV. But then there have been instances of crimes against humanity where the La Republic's government has been involved without the CHRC writing strong recommendations for the international community to sanction them, which just shows the strings behind this supposed Human Rights Commission, who never bring to the spotlight the human rights violation of its government administration.
Well, La Republic de Cameroon has been non-compliance to international regulation. They make international blunders and walk away with it. No questions, no penalty, no sanctions. One of such blunders that can easily come to mind is when they pulled out of the Swiss-led mediation. What happened after? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the CHRC watched with arms folded and legs crossed. If they were really genuine or out for justice, they would have, in their legal position and right, called on the international community to take consequent actions. Well, there have been so many cases of genocide with La Republic of all, but the supposed Human Rights Commission choose to keep shut. What does that tell us about its genuinity? Combined monthly hospitals, but by La Republic de Cameroon's terrorizing military under La Republic de Cameroon's administration directive, yet the CHRC didn't carry out any international investigations into it. What honest reason could there be for that? For a human rights commission? The Ngabra massacre that they accepted they were involved with. What were the sanctions after that?
Oh well, when we talk about the international conspiracy, it is always about silence or interest. And the only reason why only the CHRC keep quiet about this, but also the international community, is solely because La République is serving an interest on so many other fronts, the interest of these international community, and they'd rather pay a blind eye to their inhumanities, the inhumanities carried out by La République, than lose all they stand to gain having La République as an ally. And as you would know by now, that not only is La Republic a part of the African Union, but also a part of the United Nations and the Commonwealth of Nations, to name a few. So when it comes to interest, you'd rather have these international bodies pay a blind eye to La Republic's act of human rights violation and let it off the hook on these cases that should call for deeper investigations. Oh, before we get to Dr. Martin Mungwa, there's this report of concern on a certain commander, so-called Sama Thomas. Well, reports we got from the Cameroon News Agency tells us that these notorious so-called commander, resident in Belgium, Sama Thomas, encouraged fighters to target pregnant women for international sympathy. But then just to note, this news is actually coming from 2 years after these actually happened. And then it is quite an abhorrent and barbaric way of thinking, certainly. And looking at it, you get to see why people like Pastor Ambe make proclamations like Amazonians kill each other more than La Republic kills Amazonia, even though that is a very wrong statement. It just shows how these pseudo liberation fighters have had a negative impact on the genuine struggle for liberation with these types of barbaric acts.
This is one of the reasons why the government of Amazonia, led under President Sako, distanced itself from the ADF and the likes. While following this, Dr. Martin Mungwa, Secretary of State for Communications and IT, has released a press statement, and it is good to have him in person with us in the studio to talk deeply about this issue, seeing its gravity. Dr. Mungwa, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for inviting me to ABC to talk about this statement supposedly made by Sama Thomas. So this is the position of the government. And once again, 20-gun salute to the Amazonian State Army for the remarkable job they've been doing to defend our sovereignty. So this is a response to the criminal orders purportedly issued by colonial proxies Sama A. Thomas, ADF's Ayaba Cho, and associates. In response to the recent publication by Cameroon News Agency regarding the disturbing statement attributed to one activist resident in Belgium, Sama A. Thomas, purportedly advocating for targeting of civilian pregnant women to gaining international attention, the government of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia unequivocally condemns such reprehensible remarks. It is imperative to emphasize that such sentiments are entirely contrary to the principles of our resistance movement as we pursue the legitimate goal of restoring our independence. The government of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia wishes to make it abundantly clear that individuals like Summer A. Thomas, including those affiliated with anti-revolutionaries such as Chris Anu, Mike Fuze, Martin Tumasank, Njomia Marianta, etc., do not represent the aspirations or values of the Amazonian people. Furthermore, we denounce the actions of colonial proxies like Cho Ayaba and Capo Daniel, who have demonstrated allegiance to the interests of La République du Cameroon government. The so-called declaration of a second 4-month morning lockdown by Cho Ayaba, following the elimination of ADF criminal gangs in Momo County, is not only excessive, but also indicative of the manipulative tactics employed by La République du Cameroon colonial administrators Dion Gute, Ngongo Ferdinand, Atanganji, and Bankwi Joel Emile. Such actions are blatant attempts to undermine the legitimate struggle for Amazonian sovereignty. In light of these developments, the government of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia urges the international community to remain vigilant and discerning in their assessment of the situation in Amazonia. It is crucial to support the genuine aspirations of our people for self-determination while unequivocally condemning any acts of violence or incitement targeting civilians, particularly women and children. Only through a concerted effort to uphold human rights and promote peaceful dialogue can we hope to achieve a just and sustainable resolution to the conflict in our country. Long live the Federal Republic of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia. And over to you.
All right, Barrister Team. First of all, this particular report, sorry, Dr. Martin Mungwa, I beg your pardon. Okay, this particular report, from what we understand, it actually happened 2 years ago and not just today. First of all, the Amazonian government, led by Dr. Samuel Ikomi Sako, has categorically and on different occasions distanced themselves from the ADF and all of its likes, basically. So looking at the fact that this particular report was brought back again, a lot of people are saying it's just to cause discourse and to put a certain show to the international community and to the world at large that the Amazonians are the actual terrorists, trying to show this kind of picture. What would you say about that?
Well, it's very simple. La République du Cameroon and its proxies, they have run out of ideas. It is that simple. They're still trying to recycle old ideas that did not work. It is very simple. You can look in the past couple of months and seen how all the efforts by La République du Cameroon have come to nothing, to naught. Remember, not so long ago, we heard about Chris Anu talking about opening an embassy all over the world, in Africa and in Europe, and also launching a tour. What happened to it? Nothing. So they're still trying to recycle old ideas because they have nothing else to show the Ambazonian people. It is not surprising. When you have people who are teleguided, they are never resourceful. They are never innovative. And now that their paymaster have realized that these are good for nothing people, what have they done? They have just abandoned them. And what else can they do? Take out old wounds and recycle and see whether it's going to work. It cannot work. We have educated Ambazonians to understand how to make the difference between genuine and a fake fight for liberation. They all know it. I know that at the home front now, nobody talks about Crisano, not even Sama A. Thomas, because they know exactly who they work for. These are all proxies of La République du Cameroon. And I don't think it's anything new. They have nothing else to say. Over to you.
All right, so with the communique you just dropped out, because some persons were like, it's expedient the government reacts to this, even if it's a still news that has been resurrected. What do you hope to achieve with this, and what do you hope Amazonians get from this?
It's very simple. As head of communication, we have to keep on reminding Ambazonians of the long range goal of our struggle is to have complete, and complete independence and sovereignty. So in case there are still doubters out there, we are here to make sure that we tell them the facts, we tell them the truth, and we are consistent in our language and we are consistent in our actions. So we will never leave any stone unturned if it has to do with educating Ambazonians. And that is very clear. And that is our job. And that's the job of ABC. You are there to educate the population. And I'm very proud and happy to know that all Ambazonians, if not the big majority of Ambazonians, depend on ABC for the right information. And therefore, it is your responsibility to make sure that anything that is being said that is contrary to the objectives of this revolution must be brought to the open so people get educated. We never miss an occasion to do that. And that's just exactly what you've done. And I thank you for that.
All right, Mr. Dr. Martin Mungwa, I beg your pardon. I'm sure there's something else you'd like to tell Amazonia in regards to these types of happenings and probably the struggle in general. We'd just like to give you the floor to say something to Amazonians, and before we let you go with the rest of the news.
Before we let him go, or before we allow him to give us his last words to Amazonia, let's take some steps back in retrospect, by the way. Now, in line with the evil mechanism that these proxies of La Republic Cameroon are bringing in, now let's take it back. We saw the ADF in Batibo shooting in front of the camera. Since then, We haven't had you on Undaunted, by the way. Now, what is the government doing to ensure that the people are not treated like guinea pigs regularly by these group of people? Because this is just
Uh,
one act we saw. Yes. And there are so
yeah,
many others.
thank you for bringing up this question. You have to understand the the way we are fighting this war. This is not a conventional war, and therefore, if it is not a conventional war, it means that there are certain aspects of the war that we cannot handle. This we are this is we are doing what they call uh, uh, sort of trying to ambush the invading forces, what we call guerrilla warfare. We are fighting a guerrilla warfare here. This is not a classic warfare where we have soldiers with barracks, with all sort of equipment to support us, such that we can defend the population as well as fight the enemy. This is a very difficult war. This is a guerrilla war. And in guerrilla war, obviously, not everything can be taken charge of, but there's something that is very, very important. We are able to identify the enemy and we strike them at a moment where they least expect it. We have mastered the city, we have mastered our locations, and we know exactly what we can do. And at the same time, we actually destroy the economy of La République du Cameroon. So this thing is twofold. While we try to defend ourselves, while we try to eliminate all the thugs that are moving from La Republic to our own part of the country, we also destroy their economy. And you can see where the La Republic economy is at this point. It is it is in a state where the rate of indebtedness, I don't know how they're going to get out of that hole. So while we cannot handle every aspect of the war, but the major things that we have to do to make sure that eventually we're going to go to Boya, I think we are doing it very well. And I'm very certain that La Republic understands where they stand. They know that things are not well for them. And that's why they're bringing up all these old stories in order to prop up some sort of uh, um, uh, image within the international community that we are the people committing atrocities when they're the ones actually doing it. But we are here to defend ourselves. And guerrilla war tactics is something that is very, very complicated. And it has to do with people who are extremely resilient. And we are doing it, and we are doing it well. Over to you.
State of affairs in line with government policies. Would like you to talk to us about that, please.
Say that again. Can you repeat it?
Yes, looking at the state of affairs of the liberation movement in line with the government policies. Would like you to talk to us in conclusion regarding that.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm very proud to say here that the government policy towards our liberation quest is very positive, and I mean, you are witnesses to this. And about a week or so ago, you saw Professor Lennox Hine, who came here and presented the position from an international lawyer's point of view. And he was able to make it very clear that the terrorist is La République du Cameroon. Professor Hines has no interest to come to ABC and talk and lie. He was the attorney hired by Mandela when he left prison, and Mandela was able to visit the United States, the same country that used to call Mandela a terrorist. So he is not sort of a stranger to these sort of events. He was in Kosovo. He was in Rwanda. So he knows what is happening in the international arena. So when he came here and made it very clear that the terrorist is La République du Cameroon and not Ambazonians, I think that made it very clear to us that we are going in the right direction. And as he promised, there are other things that he's going to do beginning from when he made that announcement. And it's not over yet. We're working behind the scene to make sure that certain things happen I don't think it's my role to start talking about it now because it's mostly in foreign affairs and other areas. So it's not my role yet. But when the time comes, I'll be very happy to come here and tell Amazonians what is happening. But I can assure you that the cabinet is not sleeping. We are working very hard to make sure that things move in our direction. Thank you, and over to you.
And that is evident. Well, like I was saying, if you have anything else to say to Amazonians in regards to the current happenings today, the resurrected case, and every other thing or anything you think might be of concerns to Amazonians, would like you to say that to them, except you have a question only. Okay.
I was obviously very taken aback by the statement by um, CHRC, the Human Rights whatever office in Yaoundé. I mean, it's so ambiguous in their statement. It appears that for the past 7 years, they have all been sitting on their laurels and not really doing much to see into what is happening in Amazonia. It's very unfortunate. But at the same time, we recognize that they are human beings, it's an institution, and you don't know the sort of influence that is happening behind the scene. But at the same time, we are not going to give up. We have to keep on knocking at doors because we are very certain that we are on the right course. Our plight is real and it is fair and it is right for us to do it. So we are going to continue uh, fighting because the institutions were well uh, 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 installed, but maybe the people who occupy certain positions may not actually live to the expectations of those institutions. So we are not going to blame those institutions because we know that eventually they are going to see our way. So we will keep fighting, we'll keep knocking at doors, and I believe very strongly that the justice will one day come and will be in Boya as a free country. Over to you.
Thank you, Barisitim. You're absolutely correct when you say Amazonia is on the side of justice. I think Professor Lennox Hine seconds that motion. Well, it's been amazing having you here after such a long time, and that will be all for now. Thank you for joining in.
Come on ABC, and I'm very proud of the work that you are doing. All the programs that I watch, I feel so proud that things are really moving, in the right direction. And not only your program, but any other program that I watch on ABC. I think it shows that we are actually building a very, very strong institution. I don't have to come here every day to demonstrate that you're doing the right thing. I think the fact that I'm
Sure.
away actually pays credence to the fact that you can handle yourself. You know exactly what you have to do, and you don't need anybody sort of policing you to do the right thing. So I'm so proud of you, and trust me, whenever there's an occasion for me to come on air, I won't hesitate to show up. Thank you.
All right, that's great to know. Thank you so much, Dr. Martin Mungwa, for joining me. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Dr. Martin
You're
Mungwa. All right, moving on. We have a lot when it comes to defense briefing, and we have Commander Elvis to do us the honors with all of the documentaries that we may need from him.
Well, the report has is that first of all, the people of Amazonia today, Thursday, 11th April, with another explosion device at the Savannah Junction neighborhood in Bamenda is what they woke up to. Now, in the early hours of this morning, those around Savannah Junction could hear the loud sound of the explosive after it exploded. Now, the members of La Republic military forces only came afterwards. This is not the first time an explosive has been found on the streets of Bamenda, which is putting the lives of Amazonians at risk. A few weeks back, at CT Chemist roundabout, still in Bamenda, an explosive device was found in a box sometime last year in 2023 at the Alakuma Junction. An explosive device was found as well at Chase Street in Bamenda, and one exploded sometime last year as well.
Well, concerning the one of today at Savannah Junction in Bamenda, there were no casualties. Nobody got an injury and nobody was killed, probably because many people were still at home when it exploded. Many stores and shops around Savannah Junction and Commercial Avenue were not opened at the time. From investigation, Undaunted gathered that improvised explosive device must have been kept there at the late hours of Wednesday night. Undaunted also gathered that it exploded at around 7 a.m. on Thursday morning. After everything gathered so far, explosive devices on major streets in Bamenda is becoming a common phenomenon, which is putting the lives of every Ambazonia on ground zero and at the home front in danger.
Oh,
Now, still moving on with a lot of dangerous information this evening. A sad news coming in says a whole family of four at Bantham Quarters opposite the Presbyterian Church were summarily executed at about 2 a.m. this morning. La Republic to Cameroon terrorist forces of occupation killed them and dumped them at a river. One report says the father, an aged man who was working with the help of a walking stick known as Pa Orichoi, seen laying with short pants to the left. Other images you're seeing had his truth cut off before being dumped in the river. Very sad. That was not all. It was followed by his two sons, Udunze Alan and Tav Elvis. The first victim, known as Smart, was killed at their home as he put up a fierce resistance when the terrorist forces surrounded the house at about 2 a.m. and broke open the door.
well, La Republic terrorists were also present in Soap, uh, burning down civilian houses this morning. These burnings and killings came less than 24 hours after the Bui County Amazonian State Army dismembered their truck full of terrorist scouts and carried out another spectacular search and find missions that eliminated four BIR elements at Tobin. And then, as always, the Boyi security team, they're calling on the civilian population to immediately take shelter whenever La Republic terrorist forces come around, and because they only come there to kill and destroy. Meanwhile, we are also calling on Amazonians to keep on assisting the warriors so they have what it takes to defend the people on the homeland as well as the culture and the land in its entirety. Well, like we said, we have with us Commander Elvis tonight.
Right? Commander Elvis, nice to have you again tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on the studio again.
All right, well, there's so many bombings and explosive devices we see, and we're hearing reports from the home front, and talking about the family that was slaughtered. What do you think that the ASA, that's the Amazonian State Army, would have done differently?
Again, I want to appreciate the time for having me in the studio to talk about this developing story that is happening in Boyd County specifically. We woke up this morning to yet another horrific sin. A family of four that was summarily executed. They were removed from their home at night, at 2 a.m. last night. They were shot dead. The dead father of four, his throat was cut off and he was dumped in a river right around where they live. This is just part of the reason why we keep on telling Amazonians as a whole that these people come to kill and there's nothing else that we have in common with them. Freedom is not something that you'll be hoping for. Freedom is not something that you wish for. Freedom is something that you need to take action to get it achieved. So we're calling on the people of Ambazonia, those that are sitting on the fences. You cannot just wish for it. You need to take action. And that action means you need to supply those warriors with what they need to be able to defend our people. We need this education, this continuous education that we're giving the public. As you know, like we like to hide these atrocities so the international community does not see what they're doing to our people in Amazonia. They would also not want even their friends and allies to see what is actually happening to our people. because they understand how embarrassing this is. This is genocide and nothing short of that. So we have to expose these atrocities. And that is why we're grateful for ABC Amber TV and Undaunted to that extent for always making sure that you hold them accountable for these atrocities that they commit. Again, going back to the whole situation that you explained in Mezam that happened in Mezam County today, you could clearly tell that there is a lot of big strategy. What they're trying to do is they're trying to instill fear in our civilian population. They're trying to make sure that the people go against the revolution and they go out there at night and plant explosives in the middle of a town, of active, a busy town, with the aim of scaring our people, instilling fear, creating panic, so they can feel unsafe. Our ASA do not go out there and plant any explosives out in public. We know that La Republic terrorists are our main targets. Any of their accomplices, the deals, the mayors that are not there for our interest, they are people that we are looking for. Our agents know their job, they know their mission, and they know who to find and who to act upon. It's not part of our culture where our ASA will go out there in public and plant explosives in civilian areas. This is purely a lot of big strategy, and we need to be wary of that. Again, taking you back to the situation that you probably explained in Momo, if you can look at the events throughout, you can see that the idea of actually bringing in like a civilian tax, which hurts our people, is the main reason that the population in certain areas has been rising against some of these hoodlums of the ADF that you find in Momo. We are in this revolution to protect and safeguard our people and not to harm our people. And anyone out there asking for taxes is just setting himself up, because the same people that are there, that you're there to defend and protect, they would be the ones to identify you, identify your hiding spots, and leak those information to the enemy to track and kill you down. So going back to the situation in Bui, we want to assure every citizen in Bui that the defense team will do everything possible to make sure that who are the traitors involved in these atrocities are brought to book. We want to congratulate again the Amazonian State Army in Bui for the wonderful job that they've been doing. We also want to congratulate the civilian population for the intelligence gathering and sharing that they've been able to share out there to keep our civilians safe. We want to remind the population that it is your solemn duty, because freedom is for all of us, it's not for some. So remember, you say you see something, you say something, and you hear something, you say something. That security is a collective duty. We all stand to defend one another, to make sure that we all get to Boyer as one family. So again, Bui, as you all know, is a land of no return. And this event today, it has happened in so many other counties. This is just something that we know was going to happen. We were ready for that. We've been informing our people that the Republic is not our friend. And if you see them coming, take shelter. Go somewhere in a bunker, hide yourself, so you don't be a victim. The warriors are there that have been trained, and they will deal with them accordingly. So thank you all again for exposing these atrocities of La Republic, and rest assured that any such atrocities will be made public. We know they would not want to go public because they know what they did, coming in the middle of the night like thieves and killing our civilian population, and probably bragging that they killed the Amazonian State Army. So again, thank you for the invitation, and I'm happy to answer some questions to that regard if you might have some more.
All right, Commander Elvis, totally agree with you when you say freedom is for all, not for some. Well, now, according to the situational report we sent out earlier, do you think that it's strategic to have the people run into their homes, considering the fact that we see them being roasted in their houses daily by these same barbaric forces of occupation?
Well, you could shelter in place when there's like when you have a situation with gun exchange. You bunker in. You need to look for probably fortified building where you can hide yourself. Now, if you hear that the enemy is approaching your vicinity, you need to move out from your area and make sure that you seek safety. Our people know their terrain, they know exactly where they can hide and not be seen by the enemy. So we encourage them to always make sure that you have many routes, many outings. When you go to bed at night, make sure that you have some form of a defensive mechanism around you. Get your weapon. As the report clearly stated, when they approached that house at night, they didn't just kill one of the guys, you know, by just tying him up. He put up a strong resistance. So he fought with them for a while before he was subdued and killed. It is said that you, as a man, you have to die for something. You need to die in what you believe. And if you believe that you're there to fight for the freedom of your people, then it is a sacrifice worth dying for. It's better to die for that sacrifice that you believe in than to die like a scapegoat, like somebody that was just caught lying down, tied up, and then killed. You would be killed if you were fighting as a man. That would be the most ultimate sacrifice that you can give for defending your people, defending your family, defending your loved ones. And that's why we encourage each and every Amazonian, wherever they might be, they are part of this struggle. Don't look at it and say it belongs to a certain group of people. We are all fighting for that freedom. And like I mentioned before, if you believe in the freedom, don't hope for it. Don't wish for it, act. And that action means you need to fight for it in whatsoever way you can. Sharing intelligence, you're already a part of the team. Making sure that you provide those services that the warriors need, you're already part of the team. There are so many keys that come together to unlock that freedom code. And we all need each other to make this an easy task for all of us. So I'm encouraging all Amazonians to come on board, support their counties, support their local government areas, build those structures that will be able to help your people recognize danger, to be able to evade danger, to be able to alarm them, and also not just alarm them, but also hit hard when the enemy shows up. Our boys are ready. They've been preparing for this for a while, and they're defending our people with pride, with dignity, because that is a sacrifice worth dying for.
All right, thank you so much, Commander Elvis. I wouldn't know, we have so many reports here tonight, but aside that, would you have any other thing you would want to tell the people?
Um, Definitely, I just want to encourage the people. I know that times of wars, there's ups and downs. We've had great moments of success, solutions. But as we all know, there are some battles that we're going to win. There are some battles that we're going to lose. But we cannot take our eyes off the ball. Where is our final destination? We got to get there as one family. You got to be your brother's keeper. You got to watch your brother's back. Do not be a sellout, because if you sell your family or your friends or your loved ones to the enemy himself will not even trust you. So know that you being a sellout, you have nowhere to go. Be with your people, support your people, defend them, protect them. The freedom that they are seeking for will be enjoyed by one and all of us. So again, Amazonia, this is a collective responsibility for all of us. Do not fold your arms and say this is for these people. It's for all of us. So let's join hands. Let us support our men and women, our children who have laid their lives on the line to defend us with dignity and give them a befitting support that they need to be able to die fighting for what we all believe in. So I just want to encourage Amazonians not to give up.
All right, thank you so much, Commander Elvis. And of course, the last time we met, we talked about the success recorded by the ASA. So I'm sure that subsequently, while we hope for just the successful part, we know that we are likely to have you again on Undaunted. Thank you so much for coming on today's Undaunted.
Thank you, Onye and Smart, for having me. It's a pleasure coming on board, and I really appreciate the time and your service and dedication to a great nation. Remain blessed.
Thank you.
Mark the pages of history. December 2nd, 2019 became a landmark date. The nation of Ambazonia garnered recognition from Camara Municipal Barreri, setting the stage for an unprecedented partnership in a bold stride towards fostering deeper ties with the people and nation of Brazil. President Sacco steps into the limelight with the Brazilian press. At this critical time of war, history is poised to unfold once more. In the government's strategic plan, President Sacco will take the forefront of the diplomatic outreach program through media and press initiatives, sharing insights, visions, and the dawn of a new chapter in interviews that promise to captivate. This momentous affair will be streamed continuously on ABC Amba TV for our esteemed viewers. Be part of this movement. This is a crucial aspect of our media warfare. Join us in this crusade.
Meet the People Tour with President Sacco, Midland Zone, Manu and Libialem counties coming up on Monday, 15th April 2024 at 8 p.m. Amber Time. All sons and daughters of all the local government areas of Manu and Libialem counties, all government officials of all branches of the government of Southern Cameroon's Federal Republic of Ambazonia are invited. Of course, the Zoom platform link will be shared on various platforms. So keep it a date with the president for the Midland Zone on Monday, 15th April 2024. Coming up next is African News.
Well, on the African scene, the war between the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese military has been ongoing since the 15th of April. It began in 2013 when the RSF, a paramilitary group, was formed to support the Sudanese government in combating rebel forces. The conflict has since evolved and expanded, leading to widespread violence and displacement in various parts of Sudan. We'll bring you the rest of the report right after this break.
Mark the pages of history. December 2nd, 2019 became a landmark date. The nation of Ambazonia garnered recognition from Camara Municipal Barreri, setting the stage for an unprecedented partnership in a bold stride towards fostering deeper ties with the people and nation of Brazil. President Sacco steps into the limelight with the Brazilian press. At this critical time of war, history is poised to unfold once more. In the government's strategic plan, President Sacco will take the forefront of the diplomatic outreach program through media and press initiatives, sharing insights, visions, and the dawn of a new chapter in interviews that promise to captivate. This momentous affair will be streamed continuously on ABC Amba TV for our esteemed viewers. Be part of this movement. This is a crucial aspect of our media warfare. Join us in this crusade.
Join us in this crusade. Well, back to the report. Around Africa, we have the Sudan war still happening. The conflict has since evolved and expanded, leading to widespread violence and displacement in various parts of Sudan. Well, it is challenging, a very challenging situation that has had a significant impact on the lives of many Sudanese people.
Well, according to Save the Children, over the past year of war, more than 10 million children, not just the children, Togo decided to reschedule parliamentary and regional elections for April 29th due to
The number one most important thing for every Amazonian to do right now is the draft. We stand at the threshold of an existential struggle, a pivotal juncture in our proud history that brooks no failure, tolerates no hesitation. So we will draft incessantly individually within the warm, vibrant tapestries of our communities. We will draft. We must draft. Draft, for in this paramount task, our draft lies the power to liberate Amazonia.
Well, sorry for that technical mix-up there. According to Save the Children, over the past years of war, more than 10 million children in Sudan have been in close proximity to gunfire, shelling, and other forms of deadly violence. The Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project analyzed their situation and found that 1 in 2 children in southern Sudan are currently or have been within 5 kilometers of the conflict front lines. This represents a 60% increase from the initial 6.6 million children exposed to violence in the first month of the fighting. The impact on these children has been devastating, with many experiencing injuries, death, displacement, psychological trauma, and the destruction of their homes and communities. It's a heartbreaking situation that calls for urgent attention and support.
Well, Togo decided to reschedule parliamentary and regional elections for April 29th due to a highly debated constitutional reform. The announcement was made on April 9th after a cabinet meeting, and initially the elections were planned for April 13th, but were later postponed to April 20th. In late March, Togo's parliament voted to transition from a presidential to a parliamentary system. However, in response to public outcry, the presidency sent the constitutional reform back to parliament. President Faure Gnassingbé met with members of the National Assembly's bureau in early April and encouraged them to consider all contributions to enrich the constitution. Well, as a result, more consultations were deemed necessary, leading to another postponement. The proposed constitution passed on March 25th grants Parliament the power to choose the president, eliminating direct elections. It also introduces a one-term limit and reduces the power of future presidents while empowering a figure similar to a prime minister, known as the president of the Council of Ministers. Now, this individual will either be the leader of the majority party or the leader of the winning coalition. The government declares a planned 3-day protest this week as illegal, which further escalated tensions in the country. Togo has been under the rule of the same family for nearly 60 years.
Malian authorities have recently issued a decree that prohibits political party activities as announced by the government spokesperson on state television. The ban is said to be in the interest of maintaining public order, although no specific threat from political parties were mentioned. Unfortunately, there is no indication of when the suspension will be lifted. Mali has been under army rule since August 2020, and so far, since last September, the junta reneged on their promise to hold elections in February due to technical reasons, as that is what it has been. Well, Stersmart, what do you think of all of this political trauma and crisis going on in Sudan?
Oh, well, for Sudan's case, it's been quite long lasting. It's lasted longer than a lot of people expected it to. But then we're hoping for intervention. We're hoping that something is done about it. Well, moving on to Mali. Mali has been under army rule. Well, we know it's a coup hit nation since August 2020, and last September, the junta reneged on their promise to hold elections in February. Due to technical reasons, as of now, no new elections promises have been made, leading many political parties and civil society organizations to demand elections after the March transition deadline passed without a vote. The ban on political parties in Mali can have several consequences, which first of all includes restricting the freedom of political expression and participation, limiting the ability of citizens to engage in political activities and voice their opinions. This can undermine the democratic process and hinder the development of a pluralistic political landscape. Additionally, the ban may lead to increased tensions and frustration amongst political parties and their supporters, potentially resulting in the protest or forms of civil unrest.
Furthermore, without political parties actively functioning, it becomes challenging to hold fair and transparent elections, which are crucial for a democratic system. Overall, the ban on political parties can have significant implications for the political climate and democratic governance in Mali. It's hard to say for certain, but one possible reason for the ban on political parties in Mali could be the desire of the authorities to maintain public order. They may believe that temporary suspending political activities can help stabilize the situation and prevent any further war, but that's not even happening. What coming up next is foreign news. While on the foreign scene, Zelensky says he will listen to Trump's ideas to end the war in Ukraine, and he says it's with pleasure. Do you agree and believe that? While Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he would listen to former US President Donald Trump's ideas to end the war in Ukraine with pleasure, but trod carefully around the issue during an interview at the Delphi Economic Forum in Greece. The embattled Ukrainian leader remarks came after reports that the Republican presidential candidate reportedly said if he were to be re-elected, he would pressure Ukraine into a peace deal with Russia that would see Kyiv cede territory in the process. First and foremost, these signals were on certain media platforms. Well, I haven't heard that directly from Trump's, by the way. Well, that's what Zelensky told CNN's correspondent. He did that via a video link, but he says his ideas in detail. He says, I did not have an opportunity to discuss them with him and to discuss his ideas on how to end the war. So you see, Zelensky there playing smart.
Well, after years of negotiations, the European Parliament has approved a major reform tightening the EU's immigration and asylum rules. The EU Asylum and Migration Pact has been in the works since 2015. It will come into force in 2 years' time. It is designed to speed up the asylum process and boost the return of irregular migrants to home countries. It will also require the EU member states to share responsibilities for asylum seekers. Last year saw some 380,000 people illegally crossing the EU's border, the higher number since 2006.
Well, US has no evidence of unfolding genocide in Gaza, while the United States does not have evidence that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza as it carries out war against Palestinian Islamist group Hamas, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin told a Senate hearing on Tuesday. In his words, it says, we don't have evidence of that, Austin told the Senate Armed Services Committee. Hamas' October 7 attack on Israel killed 1,200 people, according to Israeli tallies. Israel's subsequent military assault on Hamas-governed Gaza has displaced nearly all its 2.3 million population and led to genocide allegations that Israel denies. The United States is Israel's biggest military supporter, but has pressed it to do more to help civilians in Gaza.
Well, in Germany, Germany says history drives Israel aid in ICJ case. Germany has said Israel's security is at the core of its foreign policy as it defends a genocide case brought against it at the United Nations highest court. Nicaragua had accused it of breaching the United Nations Genocide Convention by sending military hardware to Israel and seizing funding of the United Nations Aid Agency. Berlin rejected the claims of the International Court of Justice, ICJ, in The Hague on Tuesday.
Germany is doing its utmost to live up to its responsibility vis-à-vis both the Israeli and the Palestinian people. This explains one of the principles upon which our foreign policy with regard to all Middle East issues rests. Our history is the reason why Israel's security has been at the core of German foreign policy.
Well, in 2023, some 30% of Israel's military equipment purchases came from Germany. The purchases totaled 300 million euros, that is approximately $326 million, and 257 million pounds.
Well, with that foreign report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. Well, special thanks to Dr. Martin Mungwa and Commander Elvis for making it with us tonight. Well, we had Yaoundé's miscommunication increases tension in Abolowar as one of the reports tonight.
We also had La Republic announcing military operations in Ambazonia's Restive Aquia local government area to counter attacks. The Cameroon's Human Rights Commission charged Yaoundé government to take action against genocide amidst ongoing war in southern Cameroon, which we brought to you as ironic. Our government's response to criminal orders purportedly issued by colonial proxies, as well as another explosive at the Savannah Junction neighborhood in Bamenda.
Well, tonight on Undaunted, we also told you that La Republic declared terrorist kills four in Kumbo. And on the foreign scene, Zelensky says he will listen to Trump's ideas to end the war in Ukraine with all pleasure. That was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news on Church Stories. On behalf of Sir Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amber TV images. Good night and God bless you.